Peace. What's going on, everybody? People a chance to scroll on in here before we dive into the topic for the day. Got a deep topic we want to touch on today, man. Something that I know a lot of people deal with, but may not necessarily want to talk about. But I'm going to let you know it's not anything to fear, not anything that you should run from. If anything, it's a conversation, it's an inner dialogue that you should embrace. But I'm going to give people a chance to scroll on in before I dive into this topic, man, before I go deep, dive into the deep end with it. Hopefully you all are having a peaceful Wednesday thus far. Hopefully everything is going smooth. Hopefully you all are staying healthy, staying positive, staying productive, staying peaceful, staying powerful, all those good things. Not letting anyone knock you off your square, which is basically your truth, which is basically your peace. Don't let anybody disturb your peace. Don't let anybody do that, man. Once you let somebody disturb your peace, you giving them power. You giving them the control. You're relinquishing your power. You never want to do that. So do not let anybody disturb your peace. Don't let anybody knock you off your square, which is your truth. Stand for something. Stand for something. Stand for self. That's crucial. Stop being naive. Stop being gullible. Stand for something. Stand for self. Stand for what you believe in. Stand on that truth. Stand on that square. Don't be afraid to stand for something, man. Don't be afraid to have morals, man. Don't be afraid to have principles. Don't be afraid to be different. What's going on, Dizzy? What's going on with you? Don't be afraid to speak the truth. Because again, like I've always stated, the truth is stranger than fiction. So once you make that pledge and that commitment to stand with the truth, don't be afraid to speak it. Don't conceal that truth. Speak it. You hear somebody that's saying something that's not true, that's false, correct them. Correct the errors. As we say when we break down peace, proper education always corrects errors. So we correct the errors, man. We do not let people put out false information without intervening and correcting the error. That's not what we do. That's not something that we promote. So you should always live by that code. Proper education always corrects errors. So you always should strive to correct those errors, man. You never know. You might save a life by doing so. You might save a life by doing so. It's a reason. It's a reason why you came across this knowledge. It's a reason why you come across bits and pieces of certain knowledge, man. It's a reason. Almost definitely, Dizzy. This the best way to roll up into your workday, man. The Cash Life, what's going on? Peace. Good afternoon to you. This is the best way to get your workday started. Because you know we're gonna do some powerful building. We're gonna do some powerful building, but I gotta motivate you all first and foremost. Gotta motivate you all first and foremost, man, because again, we can't be concealing the truth. When you commit to that truth, man, you gotta be willing to speak it, man. You gotta stand on it. Stand up for that truth. Stand up for that truth. It's a lot of misinformation. It's a lot of fabricated information out here. It's enough of that. What we don't have enough of are people willing to speak the truth to power and stand on it. We don't have enough of that. We don't have enough of that. And then again, presentation is everything. Presentation is everything. How you approach the people who are spitting out these errors is everything. It's a way to correct errors, man. You don't got to go about it in a cocky manner, man. If you got some information, it's a way to present that information to the person who may lack it, who may be ignorant of that subject matter. But how y'all living today, man? I've been ranting enough. How y'all living? Everything smooth with y'all, man. Everything peace with y'all. It's a nice little Wednesday, man. Hopefully y'all done got y'all some healthy foods in, man. Some fruits, some veggies, all that good stuff. Getting your water in. You know I got to check in on that as well. Hopefully y'all taking care of the physical and the mental. That's that duality. That's part of the mathematics for the day, which I always build on before I start my little videos, before I dive into the topic. So today's math, might as well get into that. Today's math. Okay, the cash like this is it's a very good conversation for you. Then a lot of people run from these type of conversations, and it's something I always wrestle with. I used to think about death consistently when I was like young, and I always wondered why. But like some years ago, I'll probably say about 10 years ago, man, I finally came to the realization that death is like nothing to fear. If anything, it's actually something that's beautiful. So I don't fear death. I don't fear death at all. I don't feel like it's something to be feared at all. It's inevitable. One of the many things that's promised to us. Okay, the salad and salmon. Okay. That's the way to do that. But yeah, like I said, today's mathematics, we got knowledge, equality, all being born of God. That's simple. That's basically that math is revolving around one having a centered foundation. When you have a centered foundation, that should give birth to the highest version or the best version of you. So that centered foundation, it's like fitness. It's like people come to me and they say, I want to work out this body part. I tell them, nah, you got to deal with balance. You don't want to just have large legs and then a weak upper body, and vice versa. You always want to strive for equality, strive for balance. You want to work out each body part equally. That is how you want to work out the body. You should apply that to life, man. You should always strive for that equality, always strive for that balance, being centered. That's what being centered means. Being well-rounded. That should give birth to the highest version or the best version of self. Emmanuel, what's going on? Oh yeah, yeah. I don't fear death at all. And the thing of it is, a lot of people, and I can even a lot of people do fear the way that they may die, because, and it's more so about fearing the unknown. I think that's what people just really fear. Like, you don't know when, you don't know how, like you lack control when it comes to death. And that's why a lot of people don't necessarily like to think about it and don't like to face it, because you really don't necessarily know how you will go out, like, at all. The pain of death, like how, like Trade and War Stories. I'm gonna ask you a good question. How do we know death is painful? How do we know death is painful? You say you fear the pain of death. How do we know it to be painful? Like, how do we know? We've never died before. Dizzy, damn. I'm gonna tell you one thing right now. Things already going good for you. Things already going good for you. But yeah, I feel that though a lot of people more so fear how they will die. Which I'm gonna go ahead and say by association, that's a fear of death. That's a fear of death. Even if it's just merely stating how I will die, we still fearing death itself. If you get shot in the heart, yeah, I feel that Trade and War Stories. But see, that's the process of dying. But death in and of itself, like at that point, we already gone. So there is no pain in that. There is no pain in that. Like when it comes to death and the physical body has transitioned, it's no pain in that. It could be pain in the process of getting to that point, which is dying. It could be pain in that, but death in and of itself, once we reach that state and the physical body is transitioned, return to the essence, as we say, there's no pain in that. Jamani, what's going on? It's really no pain in that. But like I said, to me, it's something that's inevitable. Man, I used to wrestle with it all the time. And I'm gonna give you all another perspective, because nobody has brought this up. I wasn't necessarily fearing death. What used to get me as a child, what used to get me, I used to think about getting older. And what I used to think about in regards to getting older, I used to think about the people around me because I was the youngest. So I was like, dang, at some point, my mother is going to reach a point where she has to die. And then at some point, my father is going to reach a point where he had, like, I was thinking about that. I was like, the older I get, the older everybody else around me gets. And then I'm going to have to watch them die if I live longer than them. That's what I was thinking about in regards to death. I wasn't necessarily thinking about me going out. I was thinking about everybody around me. And if we live how we supposed to live, hypothetically speaking, if I outlive them, then I got to watch them die. Like, that was bothering me. So it's like you grow all these attachments, you live, you grow with your mother, grow with your father, grow with your sister, grow with your brother. And then all of a sudden, boom, we all got to go. We all got to go. And that was bothering me. Like, that's what I had a problem with. It wasn't necessarily how I was going to go and then me dying. It was the people around me. Just being the youngest, I was like, dang, man, that's kind of messed up. So it's and that's something that's like inevitable, man. So it's like we all got to go. So, at some point, somebody going to have to bury somebody. And I started wrestling with that. Like, it ain't no running from that. Like, at some point, you're going to have to bury a loved one. A loved one's going to have to bury you. Like, at some point, that's going to have to happen. There's no running from that. And that's how I started thinking about it. That's why that's what was resonating with me. I was like, man, that's kind of crazy. Mendel, what's going on? And yeah, the cast, like, that's basically what I was alluding to. That's the process of dying may be painful. That's like the process. That's what dying is. It's the process. Death is the result. And that's basically when the physical body has transitioned, as we say, return to the essence, which the essence is just the universe. That's how we see it. But yeah, dying is the process. So if you got shot in the chest, you fighting for your life at that particular point. That's dying. That's the process. Once the physical body shuts down and it transitions to the essence, universe, then that's death. Jemani Kona, what's early for you? Like, what's early for you? You say you fear dying early. Where's your cutoff age to where it's like, all right, now I'm cool. Now I'm cool with like dying now because I done got out the early range. But like, I don't have, like, now I'm at a point now where I have no fear of it at all. It's not something that I can run from. It's not even something that I can control. So like, I've come to grips with it like that. But early on, like, I used to think about the people around me having to go out, man. That stuff is crazy. It's like you grow and you have all these attachments, and then all of a sudden, these attachments are gonna have to go and fade away and die and stuff like that. Trade and war stories. That's kind of where I was at with it. Man. I was like 12 or 13. And I was like, what's crazy? We doing all this living just to die one day, just to not exist one day. And since I've never been like really religious, like I grew up in a religious household, my parents was Baptist and things like that, but I never really had this cozy afterlife view. To me, it was just like pitch blackness. It was like the body shuts down and then that's it. So I had like this real dark view of like the afterlife because I never really believed in the so-called religious afterlives and things like that. So to me, when that physical dies, I was like, that's it. That's how I used to view it then. That's kind of how I still view it now. So that used to be kind of dark to me. So to me, looking at death, I was like, that's crazy, man. One day we just not going to exist. So for the longest, I was wrestling with what's the purpose of all of this? Trade more stories. How old are you? Jemai, before 50? I could feel that. You might as well increase that. Shoot, 50 50 way too early. Let's go to about 75 or 80. 75 or 80. And Dizzy is skipping again. Yeah, just run it back on me. Just run it back on me. And yeah, Montel, I can feel that. Not wanting to die so quickly. I can feel that. Okay, 19. You got a lot of life to live, bro. You gonna make it to 23. You got it. Tristan, yeah, that's a lot of people. That's why a lot of people are afraid. They don't know when, don't know how. Basically afraid of the unknown. Basically afraid of the unknown. That's why I tell people to always be mindful of the now, man. When you really start to dig deep and think deeply about death, man, you really start to appreciate life more. You start appreciating the now more. And that's what I did. That's why I don't have a fear of it. Because it's like when you appreciate the now, you live your life as if there is no tomorrow. When you literally do that every day, you good. You good. The moment I start feeling some type of way about death is when I'm not really living my life in regards to appreciating the now. So when you start to live your life as if there is no tomorrow, man, as if there won't be a 2 hours from now. Like that's when you really start to live, man. That's when you really start to live. And a lot of us fear death because we're not living right now. That's one of the reasons why a lot of people fear death, because we're not living. We're not living right now. We just existing. We got things that we have not pursued, that we sitting on, that we know we should be doing, that we not. And that's another reason why a lot of us fear death. Sweet Tea, what's going on? And that's a reason. A lot of people won't talk about that reason, but a lot of people fear death simply because they are nowhere near where they think they should be right now in life. So just thinking about death, that instills that fear in them, that fearful energy. It's like, man, I got a lot of stuff I need to accomplish. So you don't want to die before you accomplish some of these things. So that's why I tell everybody, man, to pursue whatever it is that you feel like you need or want to pursue. Do it. Because 2 hours from now are not promised. Everybody say tomorrow is not promised. Man, 30 minutes from now is not promised to you. 10 minutes from now is not really promised to you at the end of the day. So live each second. Appreciate each second. Be mindful of each second, man. Embrace the now. Embrace it. Embrace it, man. Embrace life. Understand how precious it really is. Understand how precious life really is. Lindell, I don't fool with when we talking about spirits and ghosts, I don't deal with any of that. Like none of it at all. And I know that's not a popular view, but I don't fool with any of that. You will probably never hear me speak using that language. You will never hear me say anything about a spirit. You will never hear me say anything about ghosts. The spookiest you will hear me talk is in terms of energy. So if you want to say what I'm saying, when I say energy, that's spirit, then so be it. But like, that's the only word that I will use is energy. But you will not ever hear me use spirit or ghost. Do not subscribe to any of that. Because I know in the power of the mind and what the mind can conjure up. So when you know and understand the power of the mind and things like spirit and ghost, you don't necessarily got to deal with that. You don't necessarily have to deal with it. So I don't subscribe to any of that. And that's another thing. That's another thing too. That's another thing too that just helped me kind of cope with death. When people talk about like the afterlife, which from the religious perspective, that's one of the main reasons why you have a lot of these afterlife theories and whatnot, man, to help people cope with dying and cope with death. It gives you something to look forward to. That's what the whole heaven and hell thing, that's what that's all about. And even like reincarnation, stuff like that, man, those are just merely theories. But like at the end of the day, when I really broke it down, I understood that everything that my body consists of exists within the universe. So simply, when I die, when this physical body ceases to exist, all my elements are just going back into circulation to keep everything flowing smoothly. When I understood that, I was good to roll, man. When I understood my connection to the actual universe, man, and as above, so below, as within, so without, I was good to roll, man. My elements going right back into the universe to keep everything going. Because we know something about energy, man. It can't be created nor destroyed. Only transforms. That's what energy is. And we are energy, basically. So we wasn't created and we cannot be destroyed. So we don't die. We just transform. That's it. Like, it's just that simple. Once I understood that, I was good to roll. And this ain't got anything to do with the afterlife theory, man. It's just simple. My particles going back into the universe to keep everything operating smoothly. Jamani, now what do you mean by high spiritual vibration? See, I have to always ask what you mean or what people mean when they say that. Because again, I don't necessarily use the word spiritual or spirit. I'm not one of the ones that will say I'm not religious, I'm spiritual. Because a lot of those people, a lot of people that say I'm not religious, but I'm spiritual, a lot of those people have made a religion out of being spiritual. They have made a religion out of spirituality. So that's another reason why I stay away from that word and I stay away from saying that. Because people have made a religion out of that. And those people are more religious than religious folks. So a lot of times when people say I'm not religious, I'm spiritual, a lot of times those people, a lot of times, not all the times, but a lot of times those people are worse than actual religious people. When I hear somebody say that, I already know it's about to go down in regards to the conversation that we may have. So I just got to ask what you mean by high spiritual vibration. And why instead of saying spiritual, we can't use the word energy, because that's the word that I would use. Amber, peace, what's going on? Emmanuel Briggs, see, I look at it in terms of pure energy. Pure energy, the same, like I said, what your body consists of is right out there in the universe, man, from like the atoms, electrons, protons, all that good stuff, all the particles that make up the body. It exists within that universe. That just goes right back into circulation. Right back into circulation. That's the only thing that I really have evidence of. Like, I know that for a fact. Anything else is merely a theory. It's something to subscribe to for like comfort. And I'm not necessarily into all that. Again, that's why I don't really subscribe to an afterlife theory and things of that nature, man. So I don't believe in like heaven, hell. I don't subscribe to none of that. I don't fool with reincarnation. I don't believe in like none of that. Like, I'm real scientific with how I view kind of like what happens after life. Reincarnation to me, if I had to break down reincarnation, that's like one having kids. That's the work you leave behind. That's reincarnation. That's reincarnation. Like, when you have a child, that's you in another form, man. That's reincarnation to me. When you create a product that's gonna outlive you, that's reincarnation. That's reincarnation. That's how I describe and define reincarnation. It's the legacy that you leave behind. That's reincarnation. Like, when you say I'm living vicariously through you and all that type of stuff, like, that's what reincarnation is to me, man. It's the impact that you leave on others, or that you have on others, man. The work that you leave behind. You have any kids, that's reincarnation. You passing down that DNA. And that's another thing that people don't understand too, the power behind DNA. The power behind DNA. So when a lot of people come to me trying to prove, because I get this a lot, man, because I say I don't necessarily subscribe to a lot. So a lot of people are trying to make me into a believer into their theory. So when you got a lot of people that really push for reincarnation, and they talk about all these instances where people come back and say they can recall a past life and things like that. You talking to the wrong person, because that's not going to make me a believer. And like I said, I used to do the knowledge to all of this. When you understand what DNA is, then somebody being able to recall a past life is not spooky. because we got to understand DNA is information, and we got to understand how much information exists within DNA. It's a ton of information. And when you learn how to tap into the subconscious mind, you are gaining access to that DNA. When you gain access to that subconscious mind and then the DNA, there is no limit to what you can extract from that. So yes, you can recall past lives by tapping into that DNA, tapping into the subconscious mind. It's nothing spooky about that. It's nothing spooky about that, especially when you consider like your bloodline, man. Just think about it, man. Just think about how far your bloodline goes, man. That's all DNA. That's all DNA. That's all DNA. So when you start tapping into that DNA, man, you can recall anything. So that's not spooky to me. That doesn't prove reincarnation to be real. That just proves the power of your DNA. And all you got to do is learn how to tap into it, and you can almost recall anything, man. So a lot of people come to me trying to make me a believer in certain things, man. I'm like, I understand the power that's within me. DNA, that's within me. I can tap into that. I can tap into that. If I need to tap into something that happened in the 1700s, I can tap into it. I can tap into that subconscious. I can tap into that DNA. That ain't reincarnation. That's what you passing down. That's what you passing down. You born with that DNA. You born with the ability to access all of this information and all this type of stuff, man. That exists. That exists from eons ago. So that doesn't surprise me when somebody's able to recall a past life. That's DNA, man. That's just simply somebody tapping into the DNA. That's all it is, man. Some people can tap into it better than others. Some people got to work a lot harder to tap into it. Some people don't. That's all that is. So it's really not anything spooky behind it. Amber O, that's pretty much how I see it. Which again, it's not fancy, it's not promising, it's not something that's so-called positive. A lot of people don't like to think of death in those terms. They want to think of some flashy afterlife. They want to have something to look forward to. Well, the way I view it, it ain't necessarily something to look forward to. So a lot of people don't fool with how I would see what happens after you die. But I'm like, hey, forget all that. When I look at it like that, that lets me focus more on living and accomplishing things while I'm alive. That's what's important to me. I don't care what happens after I die, man. I don't, just even the theories behind heaven. Like, I don't even want to exist in that type of realm in reality, man. I'm good. Doesn't sound too pleasing to me. Reincarnation, like coming back in another form, like that doesn't sound too pleasing to me. Like, how's that helping me sleep at night? It's not really helping me sleep at night. What's helping me sleep at night is knowing that this is my one chance to do what it is that I need and want to do. So I'm about to do it. Yeah, Trade War Story. That's scientifically, that's what happens. And I deal with the science. So scientifically, that's what actually happens when we die. Scientifically speaking. So these videos are part of my legacy. This will be my afterlife. These videos, this is my afterlife. Videos, the books I done read, man, like everything I've done. When you have seeds, that's your afterlife. That's what happens after you. Like, that's what happens after you. That's afterlife. That's my afterlife, man. Like the stuff that I've left behind that impacts others after I leave this earth. That's my afterlife. That's what the afterlife is to me and for me. Anything other than that, I don't deal with it. Lachelle, what's going on? Peace. Yeah, Dizzy, damn, I've had people say spiritual and energy are the same thing. I've had that breakdown. I've had people that said that. But I just go, like, sometimes when people use, like I said, sometimes when people use that word, and I just go back to when people say they not religious, they spiritual. A lot of times, man, those people are worse than the religious people that they criticize. So I'm not one to necessarily say that. And sometimes a lot of people make the word spiritual to be something real spooky. When you break down biblically speaking, when you break down spirit, it's like breath. Like when you break it down, breath of life. Like that's what spirit is essentially. So it's like when you really thoroughly break the word down, that's what it is, breath of life. You can look at it and be like, that's oxygen. So when you really break spirit down, like that's all that it really is. But we tend to make things a little bit more mysterious than they need to be. So we didn't make that word spiritual something that is really not. And that's why I don't typically utilize that word. Because we people that made a cult into saying I'm not religious, but I'm spiritual. And it's like they started sounding exactly like the religious people that they criticize. And I've never really understood that. But you got a lot of these theories, man, opposed to like what happens after you die. And I've never been a fan of like any of them. Because it's crazy to me that the people that's coming up with these theories are people that never died. So if you've never experienced death, how are you going to tell me what happens after I die? So it's like, what's the point? Like, I don't want to entertain any theory about what happens after I die coming from people that have never experienced death. Like, I don't have time for that. So that's why I deal with what makes sense to me scientifically. And then I just keep it moving and I focus on living. So again, it's not anything that I necessarily fear. It's one thing for sure that I know is going to happen to me. So I'm going to just strive to be impactful as much as I can with the time that I have. So it's really that simple. Yeah, Trey Moore, it's not spooky at all, man. I don't like when we make things extra spooky, which we call spookism. I don't like that. And we make a lot of things spooky, man. We make a lot of things spooky that through science you can understand it quite easily. Man. But again, sometimes science is not as fascinating. So a lot of people don't gravitate towards science because it's not as fascinating, when really science is very fascinating. But to the layman, to the average person, science can be overly boring. It can be not so promising when you break things down scientifically. So we like the fast, we like the mysterious. We like for things to be mysterious. We like that. That's why a lot of people gravitate towards religions. I mean, just look at how religion sounds. So a lot of people gravitate towards things of that nature. We're going to gravitate towards things that tap into those emotions, that emotional side, which we like to call the spiritual side, and things of that nature. So we like things that tap into that. Science is going to tap into that logical side for the most part. That's what science is going to tap into. But just when it comes to dying and when it comes to death, man, like I said, I used to think about it frequently, man. I used to think about it every day. And it's a song, man, by K Reno, and he asked a question. He was like, can you go 24 hours without thinking about dying? For the longest, like I couldn't. And I feel like the reason why it was on my mind so heavy is because it was something that I had to face. And a lot of people don't understand that, man. Don't run from something that's constantly on your mind. Don't run from it, man. That means it's on your mind constantly or consistently because you need to face it. That's one of the biggest causes of disease, unresolved conflicts. So that's a conflict when something is constantly coming up, when something is constantly on your mind. It's something that you have to deal with. If it's constantly coming up, that means you haven't resolved that conflict. So that's another thing, man, just to pay attention to. If something is constantly popping up in your mind, man, it's doing that for a reason, man. So you got to sit down. You got to sit down with that thought, with that concept, with that subject, whatever it is that's constantly coming up. You got to sit down with it and you got to come to terms with it. And that's what I had to do about death, man. It was just like, I was like 12, 13, man. It just kept coming up, kept coming up. And I was like, man, why do I keep finding myself thinking about death, thinking about dying? Not only in regards to myself, but like other people. And it was just something that I had to face. And I sat down with it. I faced it. As they would say, face your fears, man. So I faced it. I looked it in the face and I was like, man, this ain't nothing to fear. If anything, it's beautiful. It makes you appreciate life around you more. It's part of the duality of life. It's life, death. Just like you got sun, moon, left, right, up, down, positive, negative. That's all that death is, man. Life, you got death. In order for life to continue to operate the way that it's operating, things have to die. And then you can even look at that on a metaphysical plane. You can look at that on a metaphysical plane, man. In order for you to give birth to a new self, the old you has to die. The old you has to die. And I'm going to break that down metaphysically again. In order for you to give birth to a new self, the old you has to die. So again, death is not something that's negative. It's not something that should be feared. It's beautiful, especially when you start applying it to life. Kill that old self, give birth to a new self. So when you die, like even physically, when you die, it's someone else that's probably being born. It's a new life coming into this realm. So it's a trade-off. So I'm cool with that. I'm cool with that. I wouldn't want to exist. I wouldn't want to exist forever anyway. And that's another thing that a lot of people don't. I'm like, man, who wants to live forever? I don't want to live forever anyway. This world is not that exciting for me to want to spend forever on it. Like at all. Like, I don't think any of you want to spend forever on this earth. I know I don't. I know I'm cool on it. I'm 100% cool on it. I'm fine with serving my time and moving on and returning back to the essence. I'm fine with it, man. I'm fine with it. I'm fine with it. I accepted that reality and I'm fine with it, man. I got a purpose to fulfill. I'm going to fulfill that purpose. Then I'm going to move on. So I'm fine with it. When it's your time to go, it's your time to go. There's nothing that you can do about it. So just fulfill your purpose with the time that you have. Leave that legacy behind, whatever that legacy may be. Focus on leaving that legacy behind, though. It's like our ancestors with the hieroglyphs. Yeah, Lindell, that's something that I've had people literally tell me that. Basically, that's really one of the main reasons. And I asked this question. This was a deep question, and a lot of people really didn't have an answer for me. I said, if heaven and hell didn't exist, would you still believe in religion? Like, would you still subscribe to your religion? If heaven and hell didn't exist, would you still subscribe to your religion? I asked a lot of people that question that are believers and that follow certain religions. I asked that question. And a lot of them really couldn't answer that. But I said, if heaven and hell didn't exist, would you still subscribe to your religion? Because then if that was the case, then what would be the point of your religion? So that was a question that I've yet to really get a fully constructed answer to. If heaven and hell didn't exist, would you still subscribe to your religion? Like, and that's another thing that I had to wrestle with in regards to me removing myself from religion. And that was associated with death in and of itself. I was like, one of the main reasons, as Lindell stated, one of the main reasons that I was subscribing to religion in the first place is because I was like, it'd probably be better for me to believe, just so that if I died and then I was a believer, then I can go to this heaven that they talking about, opposed to me not believing, and then it's true, and then I'm just doomed. So that was one of the reasons why I was believing in the first place, and that was just fear. That was fear-based. And I didn't want to continue operating under that level of fear. So that wasn't cool to me. That wasn't cool to me at all. But I'm gonna go out on a limb and say that's one of the main reasons why people subscribe to their religions. That's one of the main reasons. Because of the whole afterlife ordeal. But I asked that question, man. A lot of people couldn't answer it. A lot of people couldn't answer. Matter of fact, all the people that question applied to, they really didn't have an answer for it because they never thought about it like that. But I'm like, trust me, I'd have thought about it. I'd have thought about it on every level. I'm like, if heaven and hell didn't exist for me at the time where I was believing in religion, then I know good and well that I wouldn't have been subscribing to it. So I had to come to that realization, which I did. And that just came from me sitting on that particular question. So I asked myself that question before I asked anybody else that. So I suggest everybody sit on that question that subscribes to any form of religion. If heaven and hell didn't exist, and that's a product of your religion, if heaven and hell didn't exist, would you subscribe to it? So we gotta get out of fear. We gotta eliminate the fear, which is basically all it is. That's all that's associated with people thinking about dying. It's fear based. Whether it's the fear of how and when, and not knowing, fear of the unknown, basically. So when we really talk about the concept of dying, or not the concept of dying, but the concept of death, it really revolves around fear. DT, what's going on? Most definitely got to rewatch it. Most definitely. But when it comes to the process when it comes to death, that's typically associated with fear. And that's the reason why either people think about it, get nervous and all that type of stuff, or they don't think about it. Hence, on the business level, which is why a lot of people don't have like life insurance, because a lot of people don't want to face the reality of death. They don't want to think about it. But it ain't nothing to fear, man. Like I said, even on that business level, when you think about it, then that helps you get all your ducks in a row. You start thinking about things like life insurance. You start thinking about things like, what type of legacy am I going to leave behind? You start thinking in terms of that. And that forces you to be more productive with the time that you have when you start looking at it like that. So again, basically, to just sum it up, man, death is not something that you should fear. If anything, it's something that you should embrace. It should force you to gain this positive outlook on life and how precious life actually is. So it should force you to kind of embrace life, embrace the now, embrace the moment, live for today. DT, man, I appreciate that, man. Like I'm just making videos for the most part in regards to like what be on my mind, man. Like to whatever be on my mind, whatever research I'm doing at the moment, that inspires most of these videos. And I do feel like this is part of my purpose. But then it's also to take it on the road, man, to actually get out in the physical and talk to my people in the physical. That was my original goal. Like before YouTube was even a thing, I was like, man, I want to be a motivational speaker. So that's part of it. And then just being philosophical and whatnot. So that's just part of my purpose, man. Part of my mission. Dizzy Dan, one specific reason, it depends on the profit. I feel like that varies. You can feel like you have one specific reason. Somebody else may feel like they have 3 or 4. It's like when they tell you to figure out your why. Like, what is your reason for doing what you are doing? Like, why do you get up and go to work? Like when you figure out your why do you do what you do every morning, every day? So that can be your purpose, and it can be several different whys. or it could just be one. So I feel like it depends on the person. It's relative to that individual. Sean, you was in Islam for 25 years. Now, when you say Islam, I gotta ask, like, what type of Islam are we talking about here? Like, are we talking NOI Farrakhan type Islam? Like, what type of Islam are we talking about? But yeah, Dizzy, man, that the topic and the conversation about a purpose can get deep, man, because a lot of people feel like they do have one purpose. And man, if you ever come to that realization, if you feel like you was on here to do one thing, like it's not gonna be any stopping you at that point. Like if you really feel like you are here to do just one thing and you dedicate all your energy towards that one thing, it ain't gonna be no stopping you. There ain't gonna be no stopping you. Because you got to think about it, man. Your whole mentality, all your energy is directed towards this one thing that you believe your purpose is, opposed to like 4 or 5 different purposes. So just imagine if you narrowed it down to one purpose. Like if you feel like you have one purpose, man, that means all your energy, all your focus, all your concentration is going toward that one purpose. Oh yeah, the Sunni Muslim. Yeah, I did some studying on them way back in the day. What were some of the questionable things? I probably know some of them already, man, because when I was studying a lot of belief systems, a lot of spiritual systems, man, I always had a lot of questions. Always had a lot of questions, man. I'm real inquisitive, man. I will ask a lot of questions. But that's why I didn't. That's why I just didn't join a lot of like religious organizations, man, even spiritual organizations, man, because a lot of stuff just wasn't making sense for me. Beast Reincarnated, what's going on, my brother? Shane, what's going on? Peace. Shane, as we state, the universe always was and always will be. There was no beginning and there will be no end. That's how I see it. And that's another thing. And that's another thing. That's another question that I always hit people with. Because, and that's something and that goes back to like a creation theory. So when people ask me why I don't believe this, that, and the third, and how did everything come into existence? My question to them is, why are we so focused on how everything came into existence? Who's to say? Who's to say that this wasn't how it always was? Who's to say the universe didn't always exist? Now, I got books on like the Big Bang Theory and whatnot that obviously point towards a beginning. But we gotta and point toward a so-called end. But we gotta really define what end even means. We gotta define what end even means, which actually will correlate with the theory. No beginning, no ending. Because then even when we talking about end, basically that's just gonna be a rebirth. Because the universe, even if it's destroyed temporarily, like it's gonna be something born out of that destruction, because that's build and destroy. So even in the ending, you will have continuation. You will have rebirth. So that shows and proves that it's really no ending. Even when you go like to the ice age, to things like that, man, when certain species became extinct and stuff like that, man, when you have those geographical and historical incidents, guess what? Universe still here. Only the strong survive. Survival of the fittest. So I don't necessarily believe there is an ending. And I don't necessarily believe there was a beginning. Again, That may not be a popular viewpoint, but it's hard to disprove that. So I say we always focus on how did everything come into existence? Who's to say everything wasn't always in existence? And when I say that, a lot of people take that the wrong way. I'm saying break it down microscopically. I'm not talking about physical people always being in existence. I'm talking about the things that our bodies consist of always being in existence. And then we evolved out of that. Who's to say the things that our bodies consist of didn't always exist? That's what we mean by that. Energy, again, is not something that can be created, nor can it be destroyed. So with that understanding understood, there couldn't have been a beginning and there would not be an ending, because energy cannot be created, cannot be destroyed. It only transforms. So energy always existed. Energy was always here. And energy will not die. Energy will not go anywhere. So that's my breakdown of that. Energy will always be, always was, always will be. So yeah, I know I just kind of went on a little rant there, Shane, but that's how I break that down. No beginning, no ending. Always was, always will be. Energy cannot be created nor destroyed. Dizzy Dam, I wouldn't be comfortable because I was doing that. That's why I had to get out of corporate America, because I wasn't even comfortable sharing my time. Like I wasn't even comfortable working at a bank and then trying to do fitness and then trying to do these videos. Like I wasn't comfortable doing that. I wasn't comfortable doing that, man. It's not too many things that I'm comfortable doing. Like I feel like I'm doing exactly what it is that I need to be doing. Like for the longest, all I've known was like fitness. And for the longest, all I've known is like being a motivator, motivating people, even being self-motivated. And I led a lot through my actions. So a lot of people would just watch me and be inspired by the way that I would move. So like, I feel like I'm moving in the direction that I need to be moving in. Any other direction would just hinder my growth, and it would destroy and disturb my peace. Eli, Ohio, what's going on? Peace. And that's what led to me leaving corporate America and being comfortable, Dizzy, because I realized that. I was like, man, I don't really care to be doing anything else besides doing what I'm currently doing, man, just motivating the people and then training people. Like that's what I'm here for. Like that's what I'm here for. You know, 50 Cent said, get rich or die trying. It's like, I'm gonna live my purpose. I'm not gonna die trying. Like, nah, I'm gonna die living out my purpose. I'm not trying to do anything. I'm gonna live it. I'm gonna do it. So we don't try. We don't do none of that. We don't try. We just do it. So that's the realization that I came to. I stopped trying. I just did it. I wasn't about to be like, live my purpose or die trying. Justin, man, a lot of different people be saying that about my videos, and it may be the connection on y'all end, I think. Because I be good. I be fantastic on my end. Beast reincarnated. When it comes to power, when it comes to that 10%, the bloodsuckers of the poor, as we call them, we can dive deep into that. I won't necessarily say they are only the ones who wrote the Bible. I won't necessarily say that though. But that's it. That's a deep conversation when we start talking about Rothschilds, Rockefellers, and all that. Morgan family. When we start talking about these families, man, y'all know, it's some people call them the 1% and things of that nature. Like when we start talking about all of them, talk about the Bilderberg group and all that type of stuff, man. Like that's when we start talking about who controlled this, like who controlled this world. The unseen hand. But I feel like, man, getting to the bottom of what your purpose is also helps you come to grips with dying. Because I honestly felt like, man, one thing that I felt like when it came to uncovering my purpose, like what my purpose really is and was, one thing I realized, because I had some situations, man. I had one big situation where I wrecked my car, man. It was self-inflicted. It was self-inflicted, man. So I fell asleep behind the wheel, man. My car flipped like 5 times. And I crawled from underneath it. And that's when I realized, I was like, man, that didn't take me out for a reason. And a lot of people made that spooky. Oh, it's God, is this, that, and the third. You got angels watching over you. I was like, nah, man, I got something that I need to fulfill. I got something that I need to fulfill that I haven't done. That's why that didn't take me out. It's something that I got to do. It's a purpose that I must fulfill. That's why I was able to walk away from that. I haven't fulfilled it yet. And I realized that, man, a lot of people, you got to take heed to them signs, man. A lot of us have faced situations like near-death experiences and situations, but we don't take heed to the sign. You may have gotten that second chance or that third chance because you still got work that you need to be doing, but you will only get so many chances before, boom, something takes you out. So I came across that chance, man. I was like, man, it's the reason why I survived that, because not too many people gonna survive that. And I crawled right out of the car. I landed upside down. I crawled right out of the car. No scratches, nothing. Just a little bit of glass in me. Wasn't no problem at all. Wasn't traumatized at all. And I was like, man, I got a purpose to fulfill. That's why I was able to walk away from that with no scratches. A lot of people don't realize that, man. A lot of people be having these situations to where you wasn't supposed to come out of that alive. But it's a reason why you did, because you still got work to do. So that means you got to get to it. So once I realized that, I was like, it's time for me to get to work. It's time for me to get to work. That's why I experienced that particular situation. That was like a reminder, man. Hey, you got stuff that you need to do and you not pursuing it. This is how fast your life can change. That's how I interpreted that near-death experience and situation. I took the best part from it. I didn't let it spook me out. It was like a reminder, like, man, at any given moment, your life can change. And that's what that wreck did for me, man. 1 minute you good, 1 minute you here, and then the next minute, you upside down in the car, you'd have flipped 5 times. Man, that could, in an instance, that could have been it. In an instance, like in split second, my life could have been done over with. And it would have been all my fault. So again, once that happened to me, I was like, man, I got stuff I gotta fulfill, man. I got a purpose that I gotta live out, that I gotta fulfill. So when you have situations like that, to where it was like, man, I don't know how I walked away from that, man. It's the reason why you walked away from it, man, because you got something that you need to do. And life, as we say, the universe is letting you know, it's sending you that reminder, man, you need to get on it, because life is too precious, man, for you to be waiting and procrastinating on your purpose. Because at any given moment, it can change just like that for you. So you gotta pay attention to those signs, man. Don't sleep on those signs, bro. When you encounter that near-death experience, even when you experience it like from a loved one, man, that should be enough reason, enough motivation for you to get the ball rolling. So when you seeing people around you, man, just dying of things that could have been prevented and stuff like that, man, you got to start appreciating, like, you got to do better. So when you see people around you dying from like stuff that could have been prevented, all they had to do was change the way that they eating, and you know you're not eating the best, time for you to change the way that you eat. That's one of the reasons why I transitioned into the lifestyle that I'm in, because I watched people around me die of cancer, and I was like, man, it's got to be a better way. It's got to be a better way, man. We can't just be doing all this living just to go out like this. It's got to be a better way. And that's when I started studying holistic health. I was like, man, if I can do anything to prevent me going out like that, I'm going to do it, especially in my 40s. I was like, that's not normal. That's not natural for us to be going out in our 40s like that. You haven't saw suffering until you saw somebody pass away of cancer, and you saw the entire process. You ain't seen suffering until you seen that. Like that's some hard stuff to witness, especially when it's somebody that's close to you. That's something hard to witness. Like you, one moment you seeing them just at a healthy weight, then the next minute you seeing them like a stick figure, man, and they just in pain 24/7. That's something that's hard to witness and watch. Oh, beast reincarnated. What they say that for? Like you was born with a condition or something? Like what was they saying that for? Yeah, you gotta fall out that rabbit hole, man. That rabbit hole can be deep, but hey, you gotta stop falling into it. You gotta climb out that rabbit hole. You gotta climb out that rabbit hole. But yeah, definitely pay attention to those signs, man. If you didn't have any type of situation to where it's like people want to call them a miracle. I don't believe in miracles. I don't believe in luck and things like that, man. Things happen for a reason. So like when you had a situation like that in your life, man, the reason why you walked away from it is because you still got work to do. You got something that needs to be fulfilled. Need to fulfill it. Because you only gonna get so many of those signs and reminders, man. You only gonna get so many of those signs and reminders. So don't sleep on those signs, don't sleep on those reminders. Take heed to them. Show gratitude every morning, man, because again, the next 30 minutes is not promised, man. Your life can change in a matter of seconds. Matter of fact, that's all it takes. Oh, okay. See, I ain't know that beast reincarnated. And now you still here with us. So obviously they were wrong. Like obviously they were wrong on that note. And that's why a lot of times I don't even subscribe. I don't even believe in them, man. So they can talk a good game, man. But for the most part, when it comes to these doctors, man, I take what they say with a grain of salt, man. Like I don't necessarily put too much trust into them. Like they got a negative mindset, man. I'm not too like I don't like the word hope, but it's like at the end of the day, they should know about the power of the mind. It should be a requirement that they study. It should be a requirement that they study the power of the mind, the power of self. So therefore, they can understand that like you can heal anything. The body can heal itself, man, from anything. The body can overcome anything. See, Shane, I'm gonna go out on a limb. See, with the scientists saying they proved it was the beginning of the universe. Like I said, I got a few books on the Big Bang that sound good and all, but it was like even before their beginning, something existed. People cannot you can't point to a creation or a beginning of energy. You just can't do that. So I'm gonna need for somebody to give me the original birth date of energy. Like you can't. And again, even with it restarting, like that's my whole point in and of itself. Which leads to my theory about death and things of that nature. Like it's just a process of life. But for me to say something is the end and then it just restarts, then it really wasn't the end. Just a continuation. Shane, I studied the Anunnaki way back in the day. Then I gave all that type of studying up. I was studying them a little bit back in the day, like 10 years ago. I used to study a lot of that, the Anunnaki, man. I used to study a lot of like ancient myths, ancient history, little stuff like that. And that's where the Anunnaki would tend to come up. Babylonians and all that type of stuff, man. I used to study all that. The Samaritans and all that. Yep, they used to all come up when I used to study those books. But I kind of got off of that. So I was studying that for maybe about a year or two, reading deeply into it. Then I just got off of it, transitioning into some other stuff. Tony said you would never walk again. I'm gonna assume you walking, so I'm gonna assume that they was wrong again. Dizzy damn most definitely. I had a few situations, man, where I finally had to snap out of it, man. That was just one. I worked at a bank, man. That bank got robbed 2 times. So I done had 3 situations where things could have not went in my favor, man. The second time that the bank where I was at was robbed, man, dude was strapped. He had a machine gun with like 30 rounds in it. You could see the drum. You could see it. So it was loaded. And this was like the day after Christmas. No, wait a minute. It was either the day before Christmas or the day after Christmas. I think it was the day after Christmas. But dude robbed us, came in there with the AK, man, with 30 round drum, robbed us. That could have definitely not went in my favor. I mean, because even in that neighborhood, kind of where I grew up, man, not too many people walk away from gunmen. Somebody run up on you with the gun, man, they panic and they didn't shot and kill somebody. I was able to walk away from that situation, man. So that was another incident. It was like, man, that definitely could have just not went in my favor. Like that could have been an easy situation to go left field. I mean, because it's a lot of people, like I said, my part of town that do not survive encounters with gunmen. So it was like for me to be in that type of situation, walk away from it. It's like, man, once again, I'm here to do something. I'm here to do something. But I was robbed at that bank twice. And I survived that ordeal, man, when the car flipped on me. So I'd have had some situations to where it's like, man, you need to get on the ball. You need to do your thing, man, because again, life ain't promised. At any given moment, things can change for you. And I had several of those situations. And that's it wasn't cool to be faced with those situations, man. You don't wake up wanting to be robbed and stuff like that, man. But I took the best part from it. So that's why I ain't had no problem walking away from the bank. I'm like, man, obviously it's some bad energy surrounding it, man, because we done been robbed twice. So I got to go. Because the third time is a charm. So I deal with that numerology, man. I'm not about to give y'all the opportunity to do this to me a third time. Because the third time may not go in my favor. So I got to get out of this game. So that's how I looked at it. I said, man, that's part of my sign, man, to get out of this game. This game ain't for you. Because this is what's happening to you while you in this game. So I paid attention. I didn't brush it off like, banks, we just get robbed and stuff like that. Nah, I took it personal. I took it very personal. I was like, nah, yo, this is a sign for me to get up out of it. I shouldn't be in here anyway. So yeah, when you had those situations and experiences, man, you better act on it. Yeah, basically what it is, cheating death, man. That's what it is. Because some of those situations, I wasn't supposed to survive that. I mean, I'm working in the bank where there is money. And this dude got machine gun with 30 rounds. And all he wanted basically was the cash that we had in the drawers. Didn't want to access a vault or anything. So like he just got the cash that we had, man, and dude was in and out of there. that situation could have got ugly. That situation could have got ugly for your boy. But I handled that situation, made it up out of there, and I got out of the game. Beast Reincarnated, I definitely saw the sky over there. It's kind of crazy. It's kind of crazy. Oh, Shane, most definitely, man. That's why I push for people to pursue that purpose, 100%. Because that's the last thing you want, man, is to just live your life with all these regrets, man. Yeah, Lindell, they was in the wrong place, but again, hey, what they dished out, they gonna receive it. Like I would definitely, when it came to robbing the bank, I wasn't about to put my life on the line for that. Like this stuff is insured, man, so it's cool. Like at the end of the day, then when they catch you, you gonna be the one screwed. I'm gonna be good. All I gotta do is make it out of this situation. And yeah, I was calm in both situations. And when the dude had the gun, man, I ain't now. At that point, you were a little nervous. Yeah, Beast Reincarnated. I saw that sky. It's kind of strange. But yeah, at that point when he pulled out the gun, it's like, man, hold on. Because at that point, in my mind, I'm like, man, I'm more so angry. I'm like, man, I'm not trying to go out for a corporation that don't care about me at all. Like I was more so mad about the circumstances. I'm like, this not an honorable way to go out. I'm not about to go out for this corporation. Not happening. Like this ain't about to be new. This ain't about to be how I transition. So I was more so mad about that fact, man, that I was at this job and this could be it right here. So when dude pulled out the gun on us, now at that point, I'm like, all right, now we got a problem. But we still handled it pretty calmly though. Like we didn't panic, we wasn't crying or nothing like that. It was just like at that, like, cause you saw that it was loaded, so you really didn't know how this was gonna play out. And I don't like to feel powerless, man. And at that point, I was powerless. So I was just in my mind, man, the way my mind operates, I'm just figuring out all type of scenarios. I was like, all right, if it start going down, he got this thing pointed on me, so I'm gonna be the first one to go. And I'm thinking about, all right, if he get this thing pointed off of me and he start to go crazy with it, would I have a chance to at least try to rap? Like I'm wrestling with all scenarios in my mind. Because I don't trust this fool. I ain't trusting this dude with this gun, man. So, and then after a minute, man, I'll say about 30 seconds into it, I realized dude really wasn't going to do nothing because he didn't really want to do what he was doing. So then that's when I calmed down. I was like, dude really don't want to be doing this. He kind of feel like he got to, man. You know how some people get, man. They circumstances get bad and they feel like they don't have any other options. So he was one of those dudes. So after about 30 to 45 seconds into that robbery where dude had the gun, I feel like I was cool. I was like, man, dude really not gonna do nothing unless we trip, unless we panic. Then he may just feel like he forced to do something. But once we made it out of that situation and was able to walk home from that, like that's a game changer for you, man. When you encounter that's different. When you survive that car wreck, and I'm talking about a fatal car wreck to where you totaled your car, you flipped a few times, and then when you encounter somebody with a loaded machine gun pointed right at you, man, you walk away from them situations. The only thing I think that could probably be that is if you were to get shot and walk away from that, like, and survive that. Or to be in that, which is what I was in, that fatal car wreck, man, to where other people like kind of pass and you survive that. Like, that's different. Like, that just make you reevaluate a lot of things in life, man. When you survive when you survive things like that, as it should, man. It really should make you reevaluate some things, because especially if it's a situation where other people passed that were included in it and you didn't, you're like, why me type deal. But like with that being said, y'all just looked at the time, so y'all already know what it is for me. I got some sessions I got. So I got to go run these clients through the ground. Y'all know how I get down with my sessions. Y'all all need to make a trip to St. Louis so y'all can endure some of these hardcore sessions. Matter of fact, when I put my event together in the summer of 2021, make sure y'all bring y'all workout clothes, because y'all going to experience one of these sessions. Y'all going to have to get it in. But with that being said, man, it's been a nice dialogue, nice stream, nice interaction with you all, man. Y'all have a peaceful Wednesday evening. Get y'all some good foods in. Do something productive. Stay positive. Again, build on the positive. Destroy the negatives. I'm out, y'all. Y'all be easy out here. Peace.